Hi everyone all around the world. It's really early in the morning here in New York City, but I know that everybody is tuning in from all parts of the world. Now for this IYC8, we're really excited as this is the youth-led regional session for Latin American panel. We have had several and different panels regarding different regions. Right now we're discussing, and the aim here is to discuss in general the challenges, opportunities, and in general all things related to the region and how it's developing. Right now, I'm here with all sorts of speakers. I'm really excited. Right now, we will start. I'm gonna give a little bit of an introduction because we know how is it right now in Latin America, but the idea here for the global community is for you to also learn and to experience a little bit from our shared experiences, what we have lived, what everybody has to say right now regarding what they have seen as well, where they live, and well, in general, what we can say right now is the following. So basically, in Latin America, currently we have 106 million young persons between 15 and 24 years in the whole region. It's not only Latin America, but also the Caribbean, and it's 20% of the whole population. It's the largest population of young people ever in the region's history, so this is really important right now. However, due to Latin America and the Caribbean front, a series of challenges. Despite having higher levels of education than previous generations, we face higher levels of unemployment and receive lower wages. Although we're less likely to become sick, we are much more likely to die as a result of external causes. Youth homicide rates are really high in several countries in the region, and there is a high persistence of adolescent maternity that raises questions as how effective ownership of reproductive rights among young women are. Moreover, the development skills, access to opportunities, and exposure to risks among young persons are highly segmented by income level, also by sex, race, ethnicity, rural, urban residents, and gender and sex identities. So we're going to begin. I didn't introduce myself. Hi, I'm Shirabe Mercado. I am one of the IYC directors. I am also part of the United Nations Department of Global Communications Civil Society Youth Student Committee. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm from Mexico myself. I live there and I have been raised there. I am here just for the Climate Week and for the event. And right now I'm also going to introduce our amazing speakers today that are here with us. First, we're going to start with Daniel Valdovinos. He is from Mexico as well. He is a queer climate activist who advocates for the environment, climate justice, and human rights from intersectional scopes. As a bachelor's graduate in international relations from UNAM and a young researcher, he has dedicated all his academic work to alternative forms of development for the Global South. He is also co-founder and co-coordinator of Legaya, a Latin American environmental justice initiative that seeks to create awareness of the importance of climate change and the projects that they try to mitigate. And well, he's also part of the Indigenous Futures Network, where he has coordinated the Defenders of Earth delegation as well, and also member of Fridays of Future MAPA since 2021. Thank you very much, Daniel. And now we will introduce Gabriela Hernandez Romero. She's a 20-year-old Colombian climate activist focused on environmental economics, climate justice, and gender, coordinators in Fridays for Future Colombia of several campaigns to promote the ratification of Escazú Agreement and environmental education on topics like National Development Plan. She is co-founder of Pachamama, a Colombian climate movement that seeks to decentralize climate activism and promote first-hand climate action from the territory. Board member of Rethinking Economies International, promoting an inclusive and decolonial economics education worldwide, research assistant at the National University of Colombia, Department of Economics on Environment and Alternatives to Development. Thank you very much, Gabriela. We have also Erika Chananin Calvillo Ramirez. She's from Mexico. She's a community organizer, water and climate justice activist, indigenous Ningua descendant and Latin American Studies undergraduate at the National Autonomous University of Mexico, UNAM, developing research around the territorial axis of community climate action and indigenous land defense among youth in Latin America. Plant-based food systems advocate at ProVeg International Youth Board and Legado Gaia. Project leader, co-founder of the grassroots organization La Tlahuacha Compartida, which strengthens the environmental action in urban territories, and it's also fellow of the Culture Hack Lab's recent program Co-Creating Narratives, Interventions, and the Transition to a Post-Anthropocentric World, and an active member in Jungo and MGCY to influence human decision-making process. Thank you so much, Erica. We have also Benjamin Carvajal. He is a Chilean social entrepreneur and climate activist focused on climate action, just energy transition, and youth empowerment. He is the founder of 1.5, a Latin American NGO that focuses on education, policy, volunteering, and research projects, with the aim of empowering capacity building to address climate change at citizen, academic, public, private, and other levels. Additionally, he is the coordinator of the Latin American Youth Climate Summit, RCOI Latam, the most important event in the region that unites the voices of young people in Latin America on the road to COP, with the participation of more than 200 youth organizations from all over the region. And we also have Marina Yao. And well, this is going to be a really transparent panel. I mean, I really lost the bio, so I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, Marina, if that's fine. Okay with you.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm here with these amazing people. So I'm Marina, I'm from Brazil. I'm part of Fridays for Future, also part of Youngo and part of Global Youth Coalition. And it's happy to be here with you this morning.
Thank you so much, Marina. Give an applause for our amazing speakers. Oh, and we have Santiago. We have Santi online as well. Like, how can I forget? We have also Santiago here. Santi is also part of the Mexican community. He's Mexican right now. He's joining from there. And well, Santiago Flores is an 18 years old climate justice activist and human rights advocate. He recently served as Mexican climate advisor at Child Rights International Network, and it's a current member of Mexico's Ecological Assembly. In November 2022, he represented Mexico's children and youth at the United Nations Conference of the Parties, the COP27, and in July at the High Level Political Forum. A sustainable development engineering student who believes in the creation of social change, he has set a long-lasting mission to shape intergenerational and cross-disciplinary solutions to address the climate emergency. So thank you very much for being here. We will start now with the questions for the panel. Anyways, we will have also a Q&A at the end. If somebody wants to comment or post any questions, you can feel free to post those at the end. So yeah, the first question, and for whoever wants to answer this in this panel, you also feel free to speak. So from your experience, how can youth actively participate in shaping the future of Latin America? Who wants to go and participate first?
Okay, so first I think that as Latin Americans, we have to start to value like everything we have, because usually what happens, especially taking it from an education perspective, is that in Latin America, most of the references we read in class are from global north authors. So it's kind of like we have to start reading more people from Latin America. We have to take advantage of all these great ideas that are in the region, and to really value those proposals that are from a region that are not usually taken into account, because sometimes we think that maybe if it's from the global north, it might be better. But we do have a lot of things going on in the global south, especially like from the economics perspective. There's a lot of theory that is from the global south that's not taken into account. And we really have to start taking these proposals into account, because it's not that there are no researchers. There are a lot of researchers, but they're simply not taken into account because maybe they have perspectives that are not in the mainstream, so they're simply taken aside. In addition, for instance, we have a lot of indigenous community knowledge, So we could also like take this, like we have the solutions. It's not that we don't have them, like they're just there. We just have to listen to the people who know them, and those are the indigenous communities and indigenous knowledge that is important in Latin America. So I would say those.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. I really liked your points about listening, about really looking about what we already have. Thank you very much. Somebody else that wants to jump into the question?
I would jump in on something a bit more practical, but like I really echo everything that Gabi said. That like when we talk about the climate crisis, we're talking about like a systemic crisis, and to face this, we need like a broader approach, and a broader approach that has like influence, like have everyone's influence in this. And what is this? Is to vote. When you vote, when like you inform yourself about the candidates, when like you like use your right, like in a democracy, you are influencing like politics that will like influence all the country. I come from Brazil, and I will like share our experience during the last few years. You probably know like things that happen there, but like when we have a coalition of like really politicians that care about the climate, they care about social issues, they care about human rights, we build a better like coherent and equal continent and region there is Latin America. And talking about Brazil, I'm saying all of this because like, yeah, for the last 4 years, Brazil had a president that absolutely didn't care about the climate crisis, that was openly negotiated, that like openly denied vaccine to everyone. And for us to beat this person and like have a real president again, you've played a major role in this. So I just checked the numbers, and like compared to our election in 2018, we had an increase of 9.1 million voters, and like that's most of the part of like the new voters were youth and like people, because in Brazil between 16 and 18 years, like you can vote is facultative, like you can choose to vote or not. From 18 years old, it's mandatory. And like most of these numbers, most of these like 9.1 million people were young people between 16 and 18. And like they didn't need to vote, it was not mandatory, but they choose to because they felt it was important to have their voice heard through voting. So like a national politics would be like implemented and cared about climate.
Thank you very much, Marina. I want to highlight the things that you said. It is a systemic crisis. It is one's responsibility as a citizen to be actively involved in the political and in the decision-making activities that we have as a country, that we have as a continent, as a region. You addressed the past political major issues that happened. We all know, and if you do not know, please search about it. It was really important. It was huge in Brazil in specific. And the increase of youth in political participation for sure is something really key that not many see. Many are just like, oh, it's just me, it's just one person of millions, of thousands, right? But it does count. And to have your voice heard is also important, as you mentioned. Thank you very much. Someone else that wants to participate on how can youth actively participate in shaping the future of Latin America?
Okay, I go. So, first of all, sorry for my voice, but has been like a really crazy week. So first, I'm gonna take a sip of water. Well, as you present me when you start the panel, you said that in Latin America we have a climate summit, a youth climate summit, that we have been working since 2021. Why we create this summit? Because it's quite clear that we don't have time. That is the first thing. Why we don't have time? The science says that we have to decrease the 50% of the emission globally by 2030. In the pandemic, we decreased around 4% of the emission, but without the way that should be. And that means that 4% is the same percent that we should decrease every year So that means that we should need like a new pandemic or a new change of our life for the next 8 years. Are we gonna do that? Seems difficult, right? So that is the first thing. We don't have time. Why Latin America? Because in Latin America, we host more than 50% of the biodiversity. And at the same time, in the last year, 80% of the environmental defenders that were killed was in Latin America. 80%. And also, behind each killed defender climbing in Latin America, there are 200 of trees. 200 trees. So imagine receive 200 trees before to be killed. So under that paradigm, that reality, we said, okay, we have to gather all the youth demands. So since then, since 2021, we have created this really big community that aims to strengthen the power of youth people that we have in Latin America, show that we are doing like a real good impact. But we are in different corners and sometimes we cannot connect. So now actually under the ERICOI, that is this community, we are more like 350 youth-led organizations. 350. That include more than 70,000 people that is involved. 70,000 people that is doing real impact, showing that we don't need something new. We just need to show what we are doing, and that we need visualization. Because honestly, Latin America, it is not like a topic in the decision-making processes, and we have seen that in this week. Now, probably that in 2025 we are gonna host a COP in Brazil. It's going to be the opportunity to show the world what is happening in Latin America, why the biodiversity is there, but at the same time the people is being killed to defend what defend us, that is the planet. So how young people can participate using the existing platform, and please use this platform that is not mine, it is not from 1.5, neither EcoHouse, it's like a collective, a cooperative organization platform that the only thing that is doing is showing that we can do, we are doing, and we have impact. So it's an invitation that if everyone wants to be part, please do it, because there is no one hero. Even the Avenger has to gather like more than one person, because even there was no one superhero that could solve that. And we have to understand that because we don't have time, and we need from all each other, from the academic sector, the indigenous community, from different stakeholders. We need to be in this fight, because the only thing that we don't have is time. So how young people can participate? Go to the platform ericoila.org, and you can connect us and see how big we are doing.
Thank you so much, Benja. Yeah, I want to highlight, we do not have time. It's really important for everybody to gather, to assemble. You mentioned it really well. I really love the invitation. It's really important to use all these youth platforms that are out there. They exist, they are there, they are active, and they're waiting for you. The collective organizations that will surely stand together by your side and will for sure generate an impact. And together we can do it. It's really important for everybody to join. It will amplify the impact and our voices. So thank you very much. Now we will continue with Santiago. Santiago, if you want to comment as well.
Sure thing. First of all, I just want to say that I feel so humbled and so honored to be sharing the ground with such amazing activists that are working not only within the framework of the 2030 agenda, but for climate justice and social justice within our regions. And I think that's something that I'd like to highlight, and that sometimes gets backlashed, is the work that human rights organizations, specifically children's rights organizations, are doing in order to put the agendas of children at the forefront. I think that to answer the question, I will delve a little bit further on my work as an advisor for CRIN, which, for those who are not aware, it is an international organization that is working primarily on the international enforcement of human rights, but also nationalizing this enforcement and the inclusion of these agendas in the climate agenda. One of the main things that I have focused on is on exploring the intersections that exist in between the causes of structural issues such as violence and conflict with the climate crisis. And what I have come to the realization is that in the particular context of Latin America and in our regions, it is imperative to address the climate crisis alongside the social justice crisis. Apart, for example, from Latin America being one of the regions most impacted by desertification and water scarcity, Mexico, for example, is a country where even though more than 12 million children do not have access to basic clean water and sanitation services, the regulation of water resources is centralized in the hands of a few actors, and all of this under the permissiveness of the Mexican state, for example. So, given the lack of reparations and that exists in order to restore and preserve natural resources, as well as ensuring the protection of the human rights of those who are defending natural resources, we as youth, we need to start directing our gaze to the work that is being developed by social collectives who have found the creation of social ties the most effective mechanisms to guarantee not only the protection of natural resources, but the protection of the human rights of those who are behind the defense. And I'd like to highlight an example of this at the national context, which is the Third National Assembly for Water and Life, La Asamblea Nacional por el Agua y por la Vida, which represents a clear example of how youth united can actually create change alongside other social groups to reach common outcomes. So I think that to conclude, as youth, it is our collective responsibility to stand up with collectives to promote an intersectional and equitable sense of climate justice.
Okay, thank you so much, Santiago. It was amazing. I really want to highlight what you said about, of course, you have been focusing throughout children's rights. You mentioned structural issues, and obviously decentralization of the resources in hands of just a few persons is something we need to think about. We must fight, and youth standing up, it's really important, really key. So before I go into the next question, to give the word to Dani and Erica as well, here right now, I just want to invite the persons that are here with us in person. If you want to also take the seat in front, you're really welcome. Don't be afraid, we're here for you as well. So in any time, if you want to come up and sit here, it's totally fine. Thank you so much. So we'll continue. Thank you, amazing. So we will continue with our next question on how can, and this is really something that is resonating with what everybody is talking right now, about unity, about youth coming up together, because, and this is something that also Ben had mentioned, it's dangerous to be an activist in Latin America most of the times. And if it was already dangerous to be a young person out there, it's even worse, it's even more critical when you're defending the environmental and social rights. And well, so how can youth-led initiatives in Latin America promote cross-border collaboration and the regional unity? So I don't know if you want to start, Erika?
Yeah, I can think about that when we get in the movement, like all of us, we think a lot of what we have experienced, like around climate change. And I believe that many of us, even if we live in this big city or next to the coast, we have some experience of it. And obviously it's gonna be impacting us all in different ways. But I believe that that is something that unites us all, and something that in the international spaces, like the ones that were created for Climate Week, is like really visible. And yeah, I believe that this collaboration, this seeing that we share the same problem, is gonna highlight all those things that we can do together. And yeah, I will say that one of the campaigns that we were here for were like from Fridays for Future Latin America, because as we have seen, as they have talked, like the region shares a lot of problems. And when we get here, we also see that the global south is like distributed differently around the world, because even here, there are a lot of marginalized communities. And it's important to highlight all those problems because we know that the climate crisis is a social justice issue, a human rights issue as well, a child and indigenous peoples issue. And yeah, I believe that once we understand that how it's intersected, like yeah, how the whole system that had impacted us all is intersected in its causes, in its problems, we can then to create collectively. And yeah, we were yesterday talking about one of these potential agreements that has been made of and that we are campaigning for, which is the Escazú agreement. And yeah, that is one one potential. But we, as youth, we can create much more things. We can influence like normal traditional political processes, as Marina said, but we can also disrupt the whole like the everyday life, right? We can do marches, we can do strikes, we can do projects that are different and yeah, shared across our territories, but that also are having impacts other places. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Erika. I think that was really great. I mean, I just want to highlight, you mentioned really important things, international spaces like this, but also local, regional, highlighting and spotlighting these issues that not impact just 1% of the population, but really it's expanding to everybody. Everybody is suffering and really having the impacts of all these climate and environmental things that we are seeing right now. Intersection and deep-rooted issues that are conjoined and are found within the same systematic roots. And the Escazú Agreement, I really want to bring this up. If you do not know about the Escazú Agreement, is one of the biggest documents and biggest generated outcomes from the youth in Latin America that were together because of the climate and the environmental crisis that we're living right now. It's great, it's huge, and it's here to stay, and it's here to go and continue. And I just love it. I'm a big fan of this Escazú Agreement. And disruption strikes. I do want to highlight the disruption part, as youth right now is there to rebel. I want to mention that word as well, to disrupt and to rethink and question how we live and how have been happening, how generations have to generation has lived, and how can we shift and change that. Okay, so thank you very much, Erika. We'll continue if you want, Danny, to jump into that question. And yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, sure. I actually was going to center around the Escazú Agreement because, well, the Escazú Agreement is the agreement for information, public participation, and justice in Latin America and the Caribbean, and it's it's the first international treaty that connects human rights with the environment, and also how the countries have to secure the right for a clean environment for everyone, and also how they need to secure a safe space for land defenders and activists to do their work. And I wanted to highlight this because the Escazú Agreement has been a really long process. It's not been just a process of the creation of the agreement. We have been working more than 10 years to have this agreement finally. And we have worked more harder to make the countries ratify this country so it can be effective in our nations. But I want to say this because the Escazú Agreement was, I think, one of the first examples of how Latin American unity can work towards something that is bigger than us. Because first, it was a really long process, so most of the young people weren't young anymore when the Escazú Agreement was finally established. But also how intergenerational collaboration can help to continue this work. Because I think for us and for the countries that have not ratified this treaty, it's really important that we build this regional solidarity. So all the countries, for example, Brazil, that are in this process can make it smoother and can make it faster. Because we always say that the Escazú Agreement is a baby, but we want that baby to run, because for our communities it's critical. At least in Mexico, it's the most dangerous country to be a land defense. And most of this work it's really important for us because we don't know if our friends are gonna be right, are gonna be secure tomorrow, or we're gonna see them again. So I think it's really important that we work together as solidarity to build this network because, as Shannon says, even though we live so far away, like geographically, we share a lot of common struggles. And to build this solidarity is also to amplify the messages we have in our communities and the struggles we're going through. Because I don't know if you know, but the Yasuni was a consultation about for stopping fossil fuel production on the biosphere of the Yasuni, that is one of the most biodiverse places in the world. And with international solidarity, it was possible. It was possible to amplify and to make the scope or to highlight this issue. And fortunately, we had the yes to the Yasuni. So the production of fossil fuels in this region is going to stop. But it's also important that as a community, we also follow what is going through and to see if they're gonna stop the real production of fossil fuels in this region. And it is also like pressure for decision makers.
Thank you so much, Dani. That was really great. I mean, you mentioned really important points as well. We have just posted the Escazú Agreement link for the people that are joining virtually. If you want to check that out, it would be really important. Because we know that for Latin Americans, it's really important, per se, to repeat that, but it's really key and really essential. It's something that you mentioned has been worked hard, really hard and big way. It's not been easy. But it has been a 10-year, and more, a little bit more of document work, and all these actions that come with. So I do want to also highlight the things that you mentioned about how Latin American unity from the young persons, how the intergenerational collaboration is also key and really important. Also with the regional solidarity. We are different countries, yes, but we, as most of the biodiverse countries that are living there, we must be really together. We must unite, and we need to be really voting and really going for the same things as we face similar or the same challenges. Thank you very much. Now we will continue with the next question before we go to the Q&A, and this is a question that I want everybody to join and to answer. That is really important for our audience, the young people all around the world as well. So how can we really include the people that do not have the privilege, which is the vast majority, that are invisible, that are vulnerable, that are marginalized, the indigenous communities in decision-making, leadership, active community action, and also, I want to, first of all, give the word to Erica. And also, if you could all add to this, how can all the people, not only from Latin American region, but for the people that are in other countries as well, can really act and can really take the example that we're living in the region to make and take action in their own context as well. So Erica, do you want to start off?
Yeah, I would say that is the issue that we like to put in the table, but to just watch the image of what is happening, because it's really easy to say we have to include everyone, every voice needs to be here, but it's not possible because the system we live in is unequal already. So we have to address all these issues before trying to pretend that it's gonna be just solved with a band-aid or something. So I believe that it is something that we have tried to think of the past few days, because it is completely real that the persons that we are here is because we have some privilege behind us that is allowing us to have the resources, the education, the safety to be here. And it is not something that mostly in Latin America and a lot of the global south is possible, because most young people are lacking education because it is either something that is not a right that you have to pay for in a lot of Latin American countries. In Mexico, it is something that is free, but also education is something that a lot of young people have not access to because of violence, because of a lot of youth, a lot of childs are being taken by narco traffic and other like violence threats. And yeah, I believe that it is something that we have to address. Also, because of climate change, a lot of youth are getting all this experience even more. And yeah, even if you think like agro industries, a lot of industries also like are served from labor of migrants and even young migrants. So there are a lot of issues already that are need to be addressed before. And I believe it's a challenge, but what we can do as we are youth with some level of voice, some level of like attention, we have to address all these issues, and we have to make the changes on ground that are able to create some impact around this. But also what I think that we need is to like get out of our boxes, like get out of what we always do mostly, and get to these communities, not like in a way to like be a savior, because there is one educator from Brazil that says that no one saves alone and no one saves someone else. We save all together. So that is something that I believe is really real for the climate crisis that we have to create collectively, as we said. And we have to listen to each other, learn from each other, like to have a real dialogue, like it comes both ways. And yeah, that is what I would say that is needed to be done. And we also have to maybe not take guilt of our privilege, but try to address the system that has made those privileges.
Wow, that was amazing. I really love that. You mentioned all these important things. We have to question the system, and I do want to highlight the things that you mentioned about the systematic issues. It's unequal. You cannot address someone or one person if you're not addressing everyone at the same time. And we definitely have to stop pretending and putting these band-aids, words, without and empty promises, really. The basic rights that may be accessible, but because, well, may be accessible between codes that we have. I mean, you mentioned it already, education is free. It's not, you don't have to pay it or anything, but because of violence, because of climate change, because of systematic problems, institutional discrimination, because of all of these things, you cannot access it. You cannot go to school. You face other things. You have to sustain a family. You have to work in the streets to sustain economically as well your kids, your sisters, your brothers. It's really difficult. The deep-rooted problems and realistic discussions must be addressed, must be there in the table to make impactful and real changes, and not just band-aids. And we must have uncomfortable discussions because those uncomfortable and discussions that will get us out of the box will make the real changes that we must see, because we could keep on making and saying the same things all over again. You mentioned it already. It's like, yeah, inclusion, leaving no one behind, this, that. But are we really thinking and we're really getting into that? I mean, it has been years, right? It has been years from the cities that has this deep-rooted meaning, but we have to. And this is something that you said, listen each other and learn. We have to address together, but in a realistic and powerful way. Thank you very much, Erika. Someone else that wants to jump in? You're free.
Yeah, I think I have two things to mention. I will start talking about education that Janine said very well. Like in Brazil, we have public education, like for high school and basic education, but also for universities. But there's one thing that is critical, is that mostly like young people, mostly from like marginalized parts of the cities and the country, they go to school to eat, because school offers food for free, like lunch and dinner and breakfast, like public schools. And it's really, some countries and some regions, it's really not that good, but it's food, and it's the food that they have. And when this girl from Sweden starts striking on Friday, I love Greta. I'm not gonna say like bad things about Greta, but like, we cannot ask people to skip classes just because of the sake of skipping classes, because they go to school to eat. that's the reality in like Brazil, and I believe in other countries in Latin America and other countries on the global south, that schools offer food for their students. And like I think one critical thing about including people in the fight is like understanding the context and adapting the context for like our region, our country, our city. And like Fridays for Future Brazil, we have some people that has like the privilege of striking every Friday, or like striking, I don't know, once every 2 weeks, or I would say that. But there are some people that just can't, because that's not, their reality will not allow that. And we have like projects and campaigns and other stuff that is not only striking on every Friday, that is also part of the movement, and it is also important to like build an inclusive and like really intersectional movement. Is just to understand the context and how everyone can participate in different ways based on their reality. And the other thing I would like to mention is that Annie and Shannon presented amazingly the Escazú agreement, but like Brazil is one of the last countries that have not yet ratified the agreement. And like, yes, we signed the agreement, but like our Congress have not yet voted like to be ratified and really included in our constitution. Yeah, I mentioned that we had a big win with our president. Now we have a president, but our Congress is still really there. We have like a lot of conservative and politicians that are really like hands with the agribusiness, and we know that like the agribusiness is one of the most responsible for the environmental like threats and kills, environmental defenders threats and kills in Latin America. And it's really, really important that we have a lot of congresses by our side so the agreement can be ratified. And now in Brazil, we have this campaign that is called 513 Voices for Escazú, because 513 is the number of people we have in our Congress, and everyone in the world can participate. You just need to send a video like presenting yourself and talking, like saying where you come from and saying, why do you think the agreement is important? Why do you think defending the defenders is important? Why do you think like defending the Amazon is important for like the survival of the whole world? And you can just like look on the Instagram for like Escazú Brazil, or like type on Google like escazubrazil.org.br. There's BR, and you can send your video, or like we can exchange contacts. Like I don't know, just like please participate, because it's really important that this agreement is ratified, not only for the survival of the defenders in our region, but for the survival of the whole world.
Thank you so much, Marina. You mentioned really important examples. I mean, from your perspective, that you're living hand in hand in Brazil. The Escazú agreement, the Congress, the politicians, the big leaders have these awful ties with big businesses are difficult and really awful to handle as well. But it's really important. The last part I want to highlight, this is really great. The survival, not for just one country, not for just one community, but it is for everybody. The forest, the biodiversity, all the communities that are keeping that biodiversity alive are important, not just for those people in particular that are living there, but for everybody in the world. Climate change is not happening just in one region, it's everywhere, really. So thank you very much, Marina. And we will continue with Santiago online. Santiago, if you want to comment on this as well.
Yes, I think that I would like to echo something that was mentioned both by Shana and Marina about the representativeness. I believe that in our context or in climate activism, no one should be labeled as invisible. I think that we all have the same voice, and I think that it is in that recognition that we as youth need to be redistributing the privileges that we have in order to amplify and stand up with the peoples that are being the most affected, but not only that are being the most affected, but who are leading the most meaningful initiatives for justice, for climate equality, for the implementation of the 2030 agenda, for example. And it has come to my mind an initiative that in Mexico we have pushed forward at Mexico's Ecological Assembly, or Asamblea Ecologista Popular, which have been campaigning alongside native peoples in the capital city, in the face of this governmental land use plan called PEGOD, that it is being trying to it is trying to erase native peoples from the map. And I believe that this is a clear example of how young people can join to the already existing initiatives that are already being led by indigenous communities, by native peoples, by the people that are being the most affected, in order to promote this intersectional vision that we always strive for. I think that within the climate movement, we always speak about equality, about intersectionality, but I think that in the practice, we need to start opening up the spaces so that we can actually speak about justice, about redistribution. And I also think that something that I've been reflecting quite a lot lately is the fact that we are all victims of an oppressive system that is trying to undermine all of our efforts. And I think that what we have to do right now is to unite in the face of the system and to create our own based on unity, based on embracing each other's fights, and based particularly and most specifically on this idea that is being promoted not only internationally but nationally of leaving no one behind. We truly need to start taking action on that through the recognition of own privileges and through the recognition of how is it that our power can be used to amplify.
Something powerful. Thank you so much, Santiago. You mentioned that you could say anything and you just said the truth. Thank you so much. Yeah, for sure. I just want to highlight some of the things that you mentioned. Persons can join to already existing initiatives. There are 1,000 initiatives. For some, it may be like we're privileged for sure to join many of these initiatives as well. To be here in New York City, to join the Climate Week, to join the United Nations General Assembly, we must take advantage of that privilege. And you mentioned it. We have to recognize this privilege. And I believe it's our moral responsibility and our moral obligation, really, to take and do something with that privilege that many and the vast majority of around the world do not have and do not possess. We are truly victims of an oppressive system that minimizes our efforts. You mentioned that, and it's really true. So yeah, it's all about promoting intersectional visions of what we strive for. Thank you so much, Santiago. Somebody else in here in the panel that wants to jump into this question?
Well, I just wanted to add something briefly. I would like to say, yes, like also going back to the idea that we have to include indigenous communities. We have to learn from these communities, but we have to talk about these communities from the territories. Like, we cannot talk about the territories not being at the territory. So I think that's crucial, like all of this happening in New York City, that's going to happen in COP in Dubai. Yeah, that's great. But the real work is not being done there. Like indigenous communities are doing the work in their countries, in their regions. So I think that's really crucial, like really talking about this, what's going on from the territory, and understanding that maybe, like indigenous communities have been trying to get into the conversations, like COP and all of this stuff, but many times they're just there, like they're not really taken into account. And yesterday we were at a conversation with the COP presidency, and they mentioned that they had like this 100 delegates, youth delegates, and of those 100 delegates, only 12 were from indigenous communities. But as you may know, we have 7 regions that have indigenous communities. And it's like, okay, so we have 7 regions, but we have 12 delegates. Why is this unequal? Like, why don't we have 14 delegates? Why don't we have like equal opportunities for all the regions, 2 each? So it's like we have to start thinking that, it's not only including indigenous communities in the conversations, but really learning and understanding how it's working, how is the work got done in the territory. And that way, I would like to say that, it's not only participation of indigenous communities and youth, but also understanding how we can really have incidents. And well, I think we're all young, so I would also like to make an invitation. Like right now, it might be daunting, like sometimes we feel we're not taken into account into many conversations, But this is a moment to build up skills. Like right now we're here learning from all these amazing people and all these amazing experiences. And imagine like we're doing this right now. I think we're almost around 20. Imagine what we're gonna do in 10 years. Like we have a lifetime. We have so much time. We have so much things that we're gonna do in the future. So really like, yeah, this is our moment. Just build up skills, and maybe we're not having like such an impact right now, but imagine what we can do in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Like there's so much we can do. And like this is the moment to build up skills, to get better, to learn, to exchange experiences, and to really take advantage of these phases and all these opportunities we're having now.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. I think we all resonate with that. You are so right in all those things. Real world indigenous communities, the people that are really working from the grassroots levels. Not, it's really important the political part and the the diplomacy and everything. But it's not just about taking pictures and taking these photos and just having and inviting indigenous community and people from vulnerable and marginalized regions in the world to have them there and just sit down, but to really give them a space and give them a seat in the table. We have to be equal in representation as well, and even more in such great topics and where they have a huge role as well and have been having it from for always. I mean, from all these past generations, and this is something that do not make sense. We have to really start question the platforms. We have to be questioning as well these big spaces. And and you mentioned it really well. I think that is key. As young persons, we have to question everything, absolutely everything, the UN, the COPs, the conferences, everything. It's really important. And to really not do it for ourselves, but to really start doing and taking action. If you do not see the representation of someone that needs to be there, you have to raise your voice, you have to do something, you have to mention it. Really, it's really important. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, can I say something? Okay, so if the question is how can we really include, the first answer that comes to my mind is okay, how we can like do the global south more like approachable to us, where are at the end all the decision making processes, all the decision makers like spaces here in New York, in Europe, etc. So when we think of that, we have to identify three things. First is the language barrier. We are here talking about Latin America in English, and we were like, oh yeah, but it's fun. And we were like 5 minutes before start to this event in Spanish. And that is like a very big barrier because we cannot, or sometimes it's more difficult to express our idea, our knowledge in a language that you don't use every day in our life. I mean, how many days in a year we speak in English? Maybe when I watch Friends or when I listen music.
Yep.
Because it's the way that I can keep my English, because I know that someday I will be in a COP in a New York that I have to need that tool. Otherwise, it's going to be impossible. It's going to be like a big gap. Imagine how difficult for the people that they don't have access to the education, but they are living the consequences every day. First thing. Second thing, the geographic barrier. We are from the capital of from very big cities. I'm not from the capital in my country, but I could say that I'm from a big city. And even for us, it's complicated to get here. It's like a crazy thing how like every year we're fighting to be involved in this space for the flight costs, for the fund, how to find an accommodation is really funny because actually for Latin America, accommodation is really funny because sometimes in one bed, in one just single bed, we can fit 3 people, 5 people, and there is like, I mean, come on, we are Latin America. I mean, we can just live together, and there is no, it's part of our life. So that is the second thing, how we can do the territory more approachable. How also, it is not our fault, but it is our responsibility to get there, to try to contact the people that is in the territory, from the city to the territories. And the third thing is the technical paradigms. When you go when you want to include these marginalized people, some people is waiting to hear very technical things. Okay, how many CO2 ton emission have been reduced with this measure, or how big has increased the adaptation like capacity in that community. Who here can understand what is 1 ton of CO2? How big is this?
Oh, yeah.
And we have academic backgrounds. I mean, all of here, I think, right? Or we are very like privileged. So when I say that we have a technical paradigm, what the people care in this territory? Hey, the birds are not singing. Hey, I don't have access to water. Hey, I cannot go to the school because the air quality is horrible. And that is true. And that is happening in Chile. Sometimes the young people cannot go to the school because are closed and the air quality is so poor that is something cancerogenic. So when we go to those territories, we have to translate their problem of every day in a technical thing sometimes to say to the decision makers, hey, what they are living is this. We have to increase the norms in this. We have to do this. We cannot continue to emit this amount of CO2 because otherwise it's going to happen this. And try to take those knowledge because the knowledge of the community is huge, huge, and from centuries. So we have to use sometimes the technical and academic knowledge because that is the only thing that the decision maker cares to say, okay, what they are doing, what they are saying, if we say it in a technical, because sometimes the decision maker are not so open to understand what is real, what is like the reality of the nature connection, and say, okay, what they are saying is this, and we have to do this, this, and this. Okay. So considering that those three barriers, language, geographic, and these technical paradigms, we can be more approachable to those marginalized people.
Thank you so much, Benja. You mentioned really well examples, really good. And to highlight the language, the geographical and the technical, it's really important and we must address it. It's different to every context. And if we want to include, if we want to put everybody on board, it's really important that we eliminate and we try to cross these barriers together and with our privilege in our own hands to try to at least translate, make it more easier to facilitate as well. Thank you so much, Benja. And Nani, if you want to end with this question.
Yeah, sure. And to end in a hopeful note, because everything sounds sad right now.
We're very happy people. Otherwise,
We are.
No, yeah, I think everyone has covered everything already. But what I really want to highlight is that first we need to make this intercultural dialogue with other peoples, not only indigenous peoples, but also local communities, peasant communities, and the queer communities, and Afro-descendant communities, because they hold so many ancestral knowledge that we can recover and we can learn from it. Because the climate crisis is also a crisis of everything that we think is all right. So we have to make these cultural changes because we need to change all the way that we're living right now. And the second one is that we don't have to bring people. That's really important. It's not only about representation. We have to work alongside these communities that are going through struggles so we can amplify their message and also strengthen the work they're doing in their communities. And I'm gonna use this also as a publicity space, but like yeah, that's why we make Legaya, because we know every member of Legado Gaia, that is my organization, comes from many different backgrounds, and we're only an organization made up of indigenous and queer people, especially from the most vulnerable parts of Mexico, because we think we are the experts in our communities. We are the ones that truly know what needs to happen so we can resolve the problems that we're having. We're these social innovators, and we don't need someone else. I'm so sorry, but we don't need no one else to bring us to these spaces, because we know, or we don't need no one else to tell us what to do, because we hold the knowledge and the capacity to build our communities back, and also to solve the environmental issues that we have in our communities, because we have the knowledge, we have the capacity, and we have the community. And it's something that I also invite you to do, to build community in your spaces, in the place you live. I don't know if you know the name of your neighbor, or if you know the name of the person that picks up the trash, because that's also really important, because we live in a really individualistic world, and we need to recover and to heal this social tissue that has been broken due to many violent processes. So I think it's really important to build this community, to truly have like a diverse spaces, and also that the most diverse spaces in the world are the most diverse spaces in culture, in language, in traditions, in food. So that's what we need. We need diverse solutions. And to do so, we have to work in our communities. Also, we have to make this dialogue within other communities, because we cannot do it alone. But I truly think that we need to work alongside the people that are already doing the work, and not only have this talk about representation, because we've been having this talk about representation like for more than 30 years now. But it's time to work alongside the people that are doing the land defense, that are doing agroecology, that are doing all of these environmental projects that are trying to help to heal the communities. And also that's something that that we talk a lot, that in Spanish is La Fiesta es Resistencia, that would translate as the party is resistance, or celebration is resistance. Celebration is resistance. Yeah.
Also party, really.
No, but it is really important that as young people we have a lot of fun doing this work, because it's tiring, and we don't know that we hold so many. We hold the future of the world in our hands, but we have to have fun doing this work also, because if not, we're not having fun, why would we do this? So I think that's it. Check out Legado Gaia and the Indigenous Future Networks, and yeah.
And party.
Let's go to the party tonight. To save the world.
Latin America, yeah, of course. Well,
Wow.
I really love it. Really fast. Okay, you mentioned such important points as well. I really want to cover it. I want to like stay here forever. But yeah, intercultural dialogue representation is the bare minimum. It is. It's the minimum. It's basic, and it's just like, oh, we need to represent it. But it needs to be. We must have been there before, because now is the time to strengthen the work, to amplify the voices, to amplify the ideas, the actions, the initiatives. And this is an open space. I mean, we have to amplify our organizations, our activities, actions. I will put in the comment sections all of the organizations as well. Do you want to amplify yours, or others that you may know, so that other people can also access to these organizations, to know and to get the idea of the work that they're doing? Because I want to emphasize this really much. I mean, we come from every part of the world, not only Latin American people. We have right now I'm seeing virtual people that are joining from Benin, from Bangladesh. We have people from India. We have people from Ethiopia, from Sierra Leone. We have a lot of global South persons that are here to do and make change. So this is the time now to join forces. I mean, it's example just for the region, but it's important for everybody's, as everybody's facing the same. And I just also want to highlight this, and do not let it pass. We have to rethink our daily actions. And you mentioned it, build community, to get to know your neighbor, the people that are working here. And it's really important to question what you do in your day-to-day, because we speak and we talk about changing the world, inclusion, this, that, making an impact. But it really starts with us, and it really starts with individual as well. I mean, how do we act? How do we talk with others, to others? And in the places where we are, about our garbage, our plastic use, we have to rethink our lives and our daily decisions and actions. That's really important as well. And to conclude the panel, it's been great. I just want like 30 seconds, if everybody agrees, less than 1 minute, to say what you want to all the youth all around the world that's watching and hearing right now. What's one thing that you want to express and want to say? So we'll be like going like this. Shannon, if you want to start.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
30
seconds.
No pressure, no pressure.
30 seconds.
We like to talk. We like to talk.
Yeah, I like to talk a lot. Yeah, that the world is not going to end, that we have to imagine a world that is not under capitalism. Yeah.
So I was in a meeting with some young people last weekend with the Secretary General, and he answered that like this crisis was caused by his generation, and the good thing is his generation is ending. I started with that just to say that like this crisis, yeah, it was caused not by us. We are the ones that are suffering it, but we need to question and demand spaces and like do it respectfully, but like question everyone that is in power, question like people that are older than us, and they like they still hold the power, but like the solutions are with us, the solutions are with our community, and we are the ones that will like lead the world. And like we already need to start doing that. So like question everything respectfully, but question everything.
I would say that the future is a territory to defend, because we are the ancestral futures that we need right now. So that would be.
And before you go, Benja, I'm gonna give it a word to Santiago so that we go in the middle as well. So Santiago.
Thank you. I think that what I want to say is that you're never too young. You never have as little as an experience to do something. The important part of it all is to start doing something and to start questioning the system that is oppressing us and to start building a system from a place of collective love. I think that is my message.
Thank you so much. Now, Benja?
So, even considering that it is not our fault, it is our responsibility to build a better world. So, put your hands up. Who wants to, or who wanted someday to change the world? I wanted to change the world. Who want a better place? I want a better place. So look at this room, and maybe how many people like there in the world want to do that. Here we have power. So please connect, please talk, because that is one of the biggest arms. We're a collective, where we are a community. Nobody or no one can fight against that.
Thank you. Hey, Gabriel.
Yes, and well, finally, yes, I think we're all here. Like, I think collaboration and all these networks are the best place, like, to really take the energy to continue our work and to continue fighting for whatever you're doing, all our initiatives, projects. So really just, I would say, enjoy the process. Like, many times we're just thinking about the result, like we want results, we want to achieve all the SDGs now. But like, it's not gonna happen now. So just enjoy the process, work every single day, and hard work pays off. So in the end, everything will hopefully show in the results. So yeah.
Thank you so much. So, oh my God, I love love the energy, the vibes here. I mean, it was early in the morning.
Latinos, baby.
Yeah. Everybody was just like really tired, but now we're up. We're up, full of energy. So with that, we conclude the panel. Thank you very much, everyone. Yeah, of course, we have one.
Oh, no worries. So, hi, I'm Lucia, and I'm Colombian, and I'm living in the West. My question is, how can Latinos that are living outside of Latin America contribute to climate justice in Latin America in the communities that our families are from?
It was someone.
So I'm from Brazil, but now I'm based in Lisbon to study. So like sometimes it's really difficult, like not only homesick, but also like I don't belong here. These people don't understand how my region works. And I think it's just like you never don't be Latina. You never like stop being Colombian. And I think that like since I moved out of my country, I started like valuing even more community, like my country's community. And I think it's like finding your people wherever you are, because you will find your people wherever you are. And like don't let this will never happen, but like don't distance yourself from where you come from. And like I keep working with projects from Brazil, like wherever like I'm in the European Congress or whatever, like European Parliament, I talk about my country, I talk about my reality. And like I think it's just like understanding that like you will always have them with you, and whatever you are, just try to see like how your position or the places that you are can contribute to the reality from where you come from. And I think it's a daily basis battle, but I feel comfortable when I'm surrounded by Latinos, surrounded by Brazilians, and I know that wherever I go, I will talk about Brazil and I will talk about my region. And I will work to like this bridge forever.
Yeah, so I'm also from Colombia, and I would say like stay connected. Like there's so many people that are awesome that are like involved in all this climate movement, but then they just leave because they're studying abroad, and you're like, oh my god, what's happening with your life? So stay connected, like really, like stay in touch with local movements. And there's so much to do, not only like in person, but like online. You can do so much, or even you can go visit and participate in events or stuff that's going on in Colombia. But like we can stay in touch, and I can share with you lots of things and the ways in which you can involve more in everything.
Just one sentence. I also was living 2 years in France, and I was leading an Latin American NGO from there, and also this climate summit. And you can do it a lot online, and also consider yourself as an ambassador. And we need an ambassador in different countries. So
exactly.
You can bring the Latin vibe to here, because it is a place that is missing or needs like more this Latin vibe. So consider yourself, and always don't forget where you come from, where your people, and also congrats, because it's not easy to be very far away for your city or from where you were born or from your culture. So that is the sentence.
Thank you.
The paragraph.
Great. I love it. So with that, we conclude right now. Thank you very much. That's a wrap.